up, everybody? Welcome to the Blended Couple on Fire podcast, season 4, episode 1. Today, we actually talk about how to cope with empty nest syndrome, and that's coming up
right now.
Are you a Christian and you are looking to take your faith, your family, and your future to the next level?
Then this is the channel for you.
Welcome to today's show. If you could, right now, if you're on here, please do us a favor and hit the share button. We would really, truly appreciate it. Season 4, that means we've been doing this for a year and a half. We do 26 episodes per season, and today is the beginning of the 4th season. So we thought, what a better way to kick it off with the title of How to Cope with an Empty Nest Syndrome. And the reason why is because beginning tomorrow, I move my youngest son, my only son, off to college, which is kind of an empty nest thing because my daughter's 24, she'll be 25 this year, and she's been out. So kind of got this empty nest thing going. Do you have anything you want to share before we start?
No, we still have my 2 kids here.
We still have her 2 kids, but that's the one thing about blended families, why this one is so appropriate for blended families. It's always different, you know, for her to have her 2 kids, which are partly my kids. I mean, they are, but they're not my kids, right? So there's all of this weird kind of thing as a blended family. So it's like my 2 kids now are going to be gone. So There is a little bit of empty nest kind of syndrome. So we thought that what a perfect day, really, to talk about this. Actually, Christy's idea, to talk about empty nest and like how that can affect you, but how are ways that we can cope with it. So are you ready to kick it off?
I am.
Okay. So the first thing is they are God's first. They are God's kids first.
So this helped me the most when I was really praying for my oldest, Garrett, told us probably about 2-3 years ago that he didn't know if he believed in God. And it was actually came as a shock to us. It really was like a kick in the gut because our whole family, like our whole life revolves around God since we've been together. Like everything we do is serving in the church, and we talk about, you know, everything in our life is a blessing from God, and we want to serve for God and be lights for God. So it was a really shock to us because all of our other kids have all, you know, we went around, we're like, do you believe in God? Do you believe in God? And all of them said yes. And Garrett just, you know, is wavering in what he wants to believe in. And that really helped me understand that he isn't mine, he is God's, and it's his. God has a path for each of our kids. So just like we're someone's kid, you know, our parents had to let us go and understand now that we're adults, we don't think about that. We think like God has a plan for us. We're going on our plan, and that our kids are our kids. And they kind of, without subconsciously, we think that the kids kind of are just following along our path, which isn't true. Since the day they've been born, God has designed a path just specifically for them. He just allowed them to be in our care, you know, until they could be old enough to go out and take care of themselves.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get caught up in like, my kids are leaving, because they are, like Christy's saying, they've been put into our charge for the last, you know, my son now is 19 because he couldn't go last year because of COVID. So he's technically not leaving until this year. But, you know, 18, 19 years, we raise them day in and day out. And even in a blended family, you know, however often that you have those children, you know, but nonetheless, it's like your responsibility. You know, it's something that's part of you. And now you know, God wants us to love these beings as much as we love ourselves. And then just one day, just set them free. And that's really hard. It's hard for me to know that, you know, tomorrow I'm basically telling him like, good job, you know, getting this far. Now go figure out the world, you know, now you're at college. So, you know, it's really, I have to consistently remind myself that, you know, they're not just my kids, they're God's kids, and God has a purpose for their life. And for the first 18, it was probably to be my son, you know, and be, you know, our children here in our home. But in all reality, God has big plans for him in his life, and that's to serve him and honor him in such a special way. And I think it's just, you know, when I sit back and I really think about, you know, that God has something great for him, because I know God has something great for me, it makes it a little bit easier for me to set him free, knowing that it's for such a great purpose and a reason. And I know, you know, we talk about empty nests, and Christy even said it. It's, you know, her kids are still here. So I still get to hang on to that, which is nice. It's not like all kids are gone completely out of the home. just my kids are gone for now. And it's not like he's gone forever. It's, he's just moving to college. So he'll be home, probably on some weekends and holidays and things of that nature. But nonetheless,
it's coming. It's on the cusp.
It's just on the cusp, right? It's the beginning, it's the very beginning of this whole entire thing. So, they're God's kids first. And I think there's a lot of comfort in that, knowing that God has something really grand for them. And it's exciting to be able to set them free and allow them to go find that and figure that out.
Well, and I was telling Josh, it's really weird because after we have kids, it's like, I don't know, my brain didn't compute 100% because Garrett's graduated now. He's getting, his first real job, I call it. And eventually he's going to be moving out as soon as he starts working and stuff. So we'll have one kid left that's in school. But it's weird because you have kids and you're preparing them to grow up and go out and be members of society. But your brain never really comprehends the two separately. Like, they have been separate in my brain. Like, we're a unit. Like, I've never really thought of us without our kids. Like, we go out, we do things together, we have family dinners together. Oh, we want to go on vacation, we want to take the kids. Like, everything revolves around our church and our kids. That's just what it does. And so it's hard to start saying, it's bittersweet. Like, we can have all this extra time potentially, but then it's like, our kids aren't going to be here. And once they get older, okay, all you guys that are in the teenage years, between 14 right now and 18, it does get better. You just have to hang in there. Because once Josh and Garrett turned 19, it's maybe 18 and a half. It's like they were regular human beings again. And they would come upstairs out of their room and they would stand and they talk to us. And they talk to us like they're adults. Yeah. And it's just, you have great conversations with them, and that is going to be missed a lot.
Yeah, I was telling Christy, it's some of the best times that I've had. I've always had a good relationship with my son. As good as it can be, right? As a parent-son relationship, but it seems like this last year and a half, it's just been really good, super good. He really wants to stay upstairs and because we keep him in the basement, but their room's in the basement. So, when I say upstairs, it's on our level, right? The floor that we live on, so to be up here and just, hanging out and wanting to talk and chat and not looking for a reason to escape. And so, it's that makes it even harder, but I'm blessed now because of COVID, he was able to stay home for this extra year that I wasn't going to be able to have. And to be honest with you, I don't think he was ready last year to go anyway. Yeah. And I really feel like he is ready now, so there's a lot of comfort that comes in that. But, just knowing, right back to the first point, they are God's kids first. And so there is a lot of comfort that can be had in that to help you kind of cope with knowing your kids are flying the coop. Mm-hmm. All right, number two. So, point number two is you get to visit them as often as you want.
Mm-hmm, but not too much. Josh and I actually had a good conversation. We've been having good conversations about this because it's like when you have best friends in high school and then you graduate high school and you're like, we're not going to lose touch, and life happens. You guys get busy and people don't, it's nobody's fault. It's just you're not intentional with your time, purposeful, scheduling things in. And over time, people just gradually separate. Well, it's the same thing with your kids. You are closer, you have them. But Josh and I were saying, we need to be more intentional with when we go visit him. Let's schedule the time in to ensure that we're going out and still visiting him on the weekends, or even going out. He's only going to be an hour away. So it's go out, let's go out and take him out to dinner tonight, as long as he doesn't have class. Just working it in at least once a month, and it not let life get in the way, to make it a priority.
Yeah. And I jokingly visit them often, but as often as number one, that you're not being too overbearing, because they do want their freedom. And not everyone has the opportunity to go visit them often. I am blessed. He's only an hour away, right? He's going to the college of his dreams, Michigan State. And so, that luckily is only an hour away from our home, which is beautiful. So, I've told him, I mentioned to him before, I said, listen, this is going to be hard on me. And he's like, Dad, this is going to be hard on me too. And I know that it is. he's going to get there and get busy though. And so I need to make sure that I am purposeful, just like Christy said, making sure that we do go and don't allow life to get busy, and making sure that we do show up, and, making sure that I'm doing the phone calls, because we're dudes. Like, dudes aren't just going to pick up phones and start calling each other, And I was already thinking today, like, FaceTime, my daughter is a FaceTime person, right? That's what she does. It's a girl thing. But it is more personal. And so I want to make sure that when I do call him, and that I do call him, is that it's a FaceTime thing. I've already was telling myself that today, like, I want to do those things. So, and do those things often. If you're thinking of your child, send them a text message, call them, check up on them, but don't be obsessive about it. I'm sure that could be really easy. It'll make me want to be that way in the beginning, but like Christy said, we've talked about it. We're going to make sure that we take a time once a month and go out and visit. It's only an hour away. And we can be purposeful. I mean, we set our schedule up months in advance on our calendar, so we can schedule it in. So it's just important that you visit them often, but not too often.
Yeah, you got to let them. Some people, it's hard because you have to let them have their freedom and to be able to make decisions. Hi, Jessica.
Stacy, yes, visit barbecue at Little Josh's. This place is amazing. It's stupid amazing, people. Like, it's ridiculous.
It is. We went. He's not moving into the dorms. He's moving into some lofts.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy. I'm super jealous.
So we went there and walk around. It's really cool. So let's get off topic really quick. And that, because I'm known for that. I'm famous for that. So if you're still listening to our podcast after a year and a half, you should be familiar with it, and you're welcome. So it's like big squares, and there's two great big courtyards. So first off, when you walk in, where the main office is, there's a pool table, there's ping pong tables, then there's study rooms that are, quiet. There's a whole workout area. And then you get into the lofts, and, there's 4 bedrooms in each loft. Every bedroom has their own bathroom. There's a kitchen, a living room, and a laundry room.
And a half bath on the floor.
For your guests.
Yep.
And then the lofts before they room people, they have everybody fill out a survey. Like, do you like to study a lot, or do you like to have a lot of guests? Do you like to go out a lot, or are you a homebody? Yeah. And they really try to room up people that have similar traits, so you're not, which is awesome. And then once you get in the lofts, like, you walk out of the loft and there's 2 different courtyards. One courtyard has tons of hammocks everywhere, tons of grills everywhere, so people can be lounging and all this stuff. And then the other one has a huge fire pit, a couple grills, and then a big pool. And in the summer, it's a pool. And then in the winter, they turn it into a hot tub. So
it's ridiculous.
It is. And it's all the college kids. It's not like apartments, that any like sex offender can move into.
Right. Right.
It's the college
creeper
kids
out there, no shirt on, chilling at the hot tub with a bunch of college kids.
Yeah.
No, and it's they're little townhomes, so they're kind of cool. They're like 3 floors, and so they're really neat.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. So we're excited for him to do that. So, which is another reason why what Stacy says, we want to go visit often. It's awesome, right? That's what kids want, is their old parents coming.
And their friends.
And grilling, right? And their friend bringing their adult friends. Right?
We're coming to have a party at your house this weekend.
Right? It's kind of creepy thinking about it now, but.
We're doing it.
Oh, we're doing it. Like, we're cool. We're the cool parents. We're the parents that think they're cool that probably really aren't, but we think we are. So
we're cool.
We're fun. We know we're fun.
We're
and
cool.
Stacy, you're fun too. So we'll have a lot of fun. So anyway, make sure that you visit them often if you can. FaceTime them often. I think the face-to-face thing is important. I think it's a big deal. She goes, I don't see a problem, with Stacy says.
Right.
Hello.
And she's the reasonable one.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't see a problem, then it's good.
True. Then we're okay. It's Stacy approved. It's safe to go to Little Josh's place. So anyway, so make sure that you visit them often. And I do think that it's important that you make a standing conversation, whether it's, I think it should be FaceTime or some type of app that you use, whether it's Zoom or whatever. But I think those kind of things do make a difference, and they keep you well connected as you go in this empty nest syndrome problem. Okay, number 3, lean into your marriage.
Josh and Doug will be the old creepers at the pool, she said.
No, I'll leave my shirt on.
I was going to say his shirt will be on.
Yes, I'll leave my shirt.
So lean into your marriage. So I think this is a very important one because we talk about this all the time in blended families, and it's in any marriage. I know. Sorry. Our dog is like,
My old dog is over here pushing his way through.
Moseying all around this space right now until he finally ended up right back in his bed laying down.
He's in his bed now.
Under here.
He's like a little bumper car because he's blind.
Well, you get nervous sometimes because if he hits any of the wiring and stuff, he may knock something down. We don't know. So anyway, he's safe and sound now back in his bed. That's a little nerve-wracking.
He made it back to home base. He's
yeah.
good. He's
oh my gosh, home run.
He's like a Zumba or Roomba. Not a Zumba, a Roomba. He's like a dog Roomba. He's bouncing around until he figures it out. That was super sidetracked.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Lean into your marriage.
Yes. Okay. So it's hard when the kids, are all there and you're trying to focus on serving in your church and working and being there for your kids and spending alone time with your biological kids and spending quality time as a family and all this stuff. Now that they're moving out, you really do need to lean into your marriage. You guys can, rekindle some stuff. You can maybe try some new hobbies that you haven't done before together, become best friends again,
Yeah, it is important. And I think a lot of times people are afraid when you become empty nesters because of this right here about your marriage, right? You've poured so much into your work, career, church, serving time, extracurricular activities, some type of hobby, and then your children, right? It takes up so much time because they do. And you haven't really put enough into your marriage. And so now it's like time, you don't really have a choice. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to have to literally ignore your spouse. I mean, that's really what it would come down to. So, something we really try to do it now is really pour into our own marriage now. But even then, now we even have more extra time. It's like, okay, well, let's up the game a little bit, like what else can we do together? What else can we, bond well together in? And maybe there's a new hobby that we could do together. Maybe there's new things that we can do that's going to help strengthen your marriage. So I think it's really important that as we feel like there's a relationship leaving us, when it's really not, it's just changing, right? So it's not really leaving, it's just changing. And to lean in and help enhance the one that you have, that will be your forever relationship. And that's your spouse. So I think it's important that you lean into your relationship with your spouse.
Well, and if you don't have a lot of ideas, I think it's important to go over some of the things, like even to take care of your personal physical body. That's things that you can do together with your spouse. So like it's your spiritual sense. Like, are you guys praying together, doing devotionals together, going to church together, things like that? If it's your health, like working out, what's some things that you guys can do to go get healthy? Can you work out, go on walks, get a new gym membership, take up tennis together, golfing, like figure out some things that you can do that is active together. Is there new things that you can do when it comes to eating? Like you could take some food classes and figure out some new fun things to do to cook. And yes, you can do those types of things together. Is there a podcast that you want to do? Is there something that you guys can do together to go do those things? So you go down the list of, spiritual, physical, mental, are there things that each of you like to do, listen to? Do you both like to listen to motivational things? Find some new motivational books to read together. You don't read them out loud to each other, but you read it and then you can discuss what you read. And these are some fun things that you guys can start doing that will get your brain working, your juices flowing, and reconnect. And it's fun. It's super fun. Go on a vacation, go do something, drive up north, well, in Michigan, if you're not in Michigan, sorry. In Michigan, we call it up north, and we just drive up north to the same state that we're in.
Yeah, to the top of the mitten. That's all you're doing. And then if you go on the
cool
other side of the mitten,
here.
You're in the UP.
Yeah.
You're in the up mitten.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
But it's a cool thing to do here. You go up north.
It is. But it is important that you pour into your marriage. I mean, you should be pouring into your marriage anyway, but empty nest, really, you need to find something to replace that extra time, that emotional time that you're spending with your children, even when they get older. And I know this is more typical of women than it is of men, is that you spend, a lot more time with your children than you do your spouse or even other relationships, and now that they're leaving, it's like, what am I going to do? I don't know. I've connected so well with my kids because they've desired my attention for so long. And now it's got to where I like my attention being that way. It's really going to take some work to really lean back into your marriage. And it's really important to the future of your marriage. If you haven't already had that on point, if you haven't already been purposeful on that, now's the time to embrace that and start doing it. It will take a lot of your time. It will take a lot of your emotional energy, and it refocuses it. And it's extremely helpful.
Well, and let's be completely frank. A lot of marriages, the men work all the time.
Yep.
And the women spend all the time with their children and
Yep.
men. The woman hasn't been too lonely. I'm sure she has been lonely, but she hasn't been too lonely because she's been able to spend and pour all of her time into the children.
Yeah.
And you may have been not lonely because you're pouring everything into your career. But you guys need to be honest with each other because you are married and say, okay, the kids are out. I don't want my wife lonely now and searching for attention elsewhere. And the wife needs to be like, okay, I don't want my husband working all the time anymore because I don't have my kids to keep me busy.
Yeah.
So it's like, can you stop working so much? I mean, in the typical marriage that you hear about, this is what happens. So it's important that both of you take responsibility in keeping that relationship or closing any gaps that maybe has grown in there that hasn't really created a problem. It can potentially, but hasn't yet. But now that the kids are leaving, it could.
Amen to that. All right. And then number four, get involved.
Get involved.
Get involved.
Mm-hmm. Get involved, get support. But when we say get involved, we say like you could find a community of people that are dealing with empty nest or in the same walk as you, or maybe been in it like maybe a year or two now that could offer you some advice.
Mm-hmm.
But get into service at your church. And it's not just church. I mean, you can serve at your local soup house. There's the YWCA, YMCA. There's places that you can go volunteer. Hospitals need people to come down and hold babies that are born to people that are addicted to drugs. And they need to be held a lot and have that skin-to-skin contact. And there's those things that you can do together too as a married couple. But if the wife doesn't work, like I mentioned before, and the husband is at work, these are some things that you can do to get your time, so you're not just sitting at home in an empty house and then just eating out of, a thing of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, watching Netflix, crying into your ice cream spoon. I mean, get out there and start doing stuff. But serving, if you just go to a local church, if you don't know where to start, go to a local church and ask them where they need help. Because I will guarantee you 100% that they need help somewhere. In children's ministries, in adult ministries, in the welcome centers, somewhere. They need help. The tech booths, running cameras, they need help.
Yeah, they always need help. And that's the thing too, is getting yourself involved in giving of yourself, because that is parenting. I mean, that is flat parenting is, you spend all this time just giving of yourself, pouring into your children. Now you kind of have that missing ingredient now when you become an empty nester. It's like, okay, where do I serve? And most people don't think like, okay, maybe I need to start giving back in a different way to help satisfy that teaching or that, encouraging or that just generalized serving thing. And I think it's so important that you get involved. And I would think that, maybe the most of the people that watch this podcast, I mean, we're a Christian podcast, so you probably have a church. And maybe you do serve now, but maybe you need to find a different area in your church to serve now. Maybe something that's going to fulfill that. Or maybe you need to serve a little more. Maybe you haven't had an opportunity to serve enough, and now you can kind of step up your serve game a little bit. And I think it is important that you get involved. And there is all different types of stuff to get involved. It kind of matches in with the last point Christy was making. Get involved with maybe getting a gym membership with your spouse and getting involved that way. Maybe, signing up for a race to run, and then training with your spouse to do that, So there's different things that you can get involved in other than just serving. But it's putting yourself out there and stepping into a new direction of something that's engaging you in a special way, just like your kids were.
You could get a new pet. That could be your new baby.
That's a good idea, actually.
I know. I just thought about that.
We're not getting one, though.
With our old dog laying back there.
We're not.
You guys could get a new pet, and that could be your new baby.
You guys could, but we're not. That's all I'm saying. Because as soon as this dog's gone, we ain't getting on my dogs.
Oh, we still have Nella. We still have our fat, round Chihuahua dog.
The Chihuahua dog will be here for 38 years. I am sure of it. Mm-hmm. Like they live forever.
She's like this big around.
If you can't see the screen right now, imagine the biggest dog you've ever seen, and it's a Chihuahua. She is straight sausage. She looks like her legs are going to snap when she walks. Okay?
It is true. She has very, very
like
skinny. Yeah. So if you've never been to our house before, as soon as someone comes over our house and they've never seen the dog and she comes running out to attack them, they start cracking up laughing because actually they're like, I don't understand how her legs are supporting her body when she's running out here. I actually think her leg is going to snap from under her.
This is the type of parents we are, apparently. Okay, we feed the things that live in our home a lot until their legs snap.
That's why we're always talking about diets, intermittent in our podcast.
Right, we need to get involved in something.
So one of the things I thought about while Josh was talking, though, is, back up to the point number 2, like visit them often. It doesn't even have to be like they went away to college, like they get married, they move out, they start getting a life of their own. You don't want that relationship to fizzle out. You can be intentional to try to do things with them that they would want to do. Like, do they have a hobby that they like to do? A lot of them people do the painting with a twist. I know that involves alcohol the majority of the time, and Josh and I wouldn't do that, but because we're recovering alcoholics. But you can get painting. You can have painting parties to paint. If you have a daughter that's married, your son, if he likes golf, if he likes bowling, you can do those types of things with him. Hunting, fishing, those types of things. Josh wouldn't go hunting, but he would go fishing and bowling and golfing.
I did that once. It didn't go my way. So.
Right. So, and a lot of girls, some girls not to be sexist, some girls like hunting and fishing and bowling and those things. Yeah. So do those things with them, and if they are away at college and you only can go visit them like for a day on the weekend or something, make sure you're intentional about it. What do you have a plan? Like, what are you going to do? Are you just going to go sit in the room with them the whole time? No. Like, you want to take them out to dinner, maybe take them to a park, take them to a movie. I personally like movies. None of my kids really are huge movie goers. But think of something that you can do together. Go to a water park. That's still fun as an adult, Yeah,
and something that's really important for blended families is now this is really a great opportunity for me to bond with Christy's boys in a way that I really hadn't been able to before. And not because I was a bad stepdad.
Yeah, it was.
Right? Right.
I'm kidding.
But it's an opportunity, though, that I didn't have before where I can refocus some different types of energy. I can get a little more involved with them when, you have more people in the house, you have to spread that attention out. So, it's a really great opportunity now to kind of refocus that, and so it could really deepen your relationship with the ones that still are at home. Because, the one thing that I do understand is that empty nest thing doesn't happen overnight. We're from the time they're born, we're working towards this time right now. Like, we're working up to this moment. They're not going to live at home forever. Maybe, but I highly doubt your kids are going to live with you forever. And
some families do have that.
And sometimes they do. But, you're working towards this moment. So it's like, what are these things today we talked about? Can you kind of start working on now, thinking about now, planning for now? I think that's super important that you do. I've really been blessed to be in a marriage where a woman, wants to work on her marriage just as much as I want, almost as much as I want to work on our marriage.
He's lying.
To work on our marriage, and the important part of that is now that, kids are starting to leave, I feel comfort. I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck with this person that I don't know. And because I didn't allow that to happen up until this point. So you can kind of, what?
I have an idea. I just don't want to forget. You keep talking.
I have put your finger up like you're going to ask.
No, I have to keep telling myself what it is in my brain so I don't forget.
My gosh. I need to get you pen and paper.
I do.
But in other words, it's just important. You have a couple things as blended families. You can focus on the stepkids that you have, right? Or you can start planning in advance for this day to come. Do you remember?
So, yes, okay. Okay, everybody that doesn't know me, I have a really bad memory. And it's because I'll think of something that's really good, but then I'm trying to listen to the person that's talking. And then as they're talking, it gives me more ideas in my head. And then I forget my original idea. Okay. And that's just usually if I retrace my steps and go backwards a little bit, I do end up remembering. I usually always 99.9% of the time, but then it takes a while. So I had a thought though, that another side of it is that a lot of people maybe didn't work too much before their kids moved out because they were spending time as a family unit a lot and they were always making sure that, oh no, we have to have good equal family time and I'm not going to be at the office too much. And then once the kids leave the house, maybe both of you have careers and both of you think that this is an opportunity that you can start working more and you want to be careful not to do that. Yeah. Like that extra time shouldn't be like, oh, now I get to spend more time at the office because there's no kids at home that we need to pay attention to. No, you guys need to be paying attention to each other. This podcast is supposed to be about blended families. Ultimately, though, the root of blended families is the marriage.
Yep.
So the marriage is the most important thing. So just be very careful with the empty nest thing that you guys don't start using this time to say, okay, now I have all this extra time that I can use for myself and be selfish about it. You really still need to look at it together about how you're tired. You still should be sitting down, talking about your schedule for the week, what you guys, who's planned what, where you guys are going to be going, and making sure that that time together is in there.
Yeah, because I think it is easy, when the kids all start to leave home for you to say, oh my gosh, now I have some time for myself, which is not a bad thing.
Right.
Okay. But I love what Christy's saying, though. That's easy to replace all of that time now with self-time. So, it's I'm going to go hit golf. I'm going to go hit 9 holes 5 days a week with my friends now because I have this extra time.
Yeah.
Or, the ladies are like, hey, I'm going to play bunco, 5 nights a week now with my girls because I have all this extra time now. Mm-hmm. And I think, you need to make sure that you're still putting the thing that matters the most at the top of the list, and that's your marriage. And so, when we're thinking of empty nesters, the number one scariest thing, and I've seen a statistic, but I don't remember the percentage, but the number one scariest thing to everybody, all couples, is now I'm stuck with this other person, my spouse. And, they've allowed the children to come in the way of their marriage for so long. Now they're scared because they don't know each other. They're different people now that they've gotten older. They don't have the same likenesses anymore, like they used to. So they feel this super scary thing, like it's a brand new relationship. Well, that's why this is important. I would say a lot of people that listen to this podcast, you probably have teenager younger, so you can start preparing for this now. And so if you're gonna prepare for it now, start pouring into your marriage now. Start figuring these things out. So when the day does come, it's not like this huge shocker, like you jumped in an ice bath. So I think it's just really important that you understand empty nest syndrome, that it can be spearheaded in the beginning to say, hey, let's make sure that this isn't as scary. It's going to be emotional. Okay, tomorrow's going to be a rough day for me. It's going to be emotional, even though he's an hour away, but I feel prepared for it.
It's still moving your kid out of the house, and they're not going to be there on a daily basis, like in the house, eating your food, talking to you, right there in your face. That's why I correlated it. Like, it's no different like when you have work friends and you're like literally like BFFs all day at work. You work together. Yeah. It is awesome. You see each other, 5 days a week. And then all of a sudden you quit that job and you're like, we're not going to lose connection. Like, we're so close. And you're not. Like, you're only close when you were at work, because outside in your personal life, you guys did nothing together. And so now you're working somewhere else, and it's like, it's kind of weird, but not weird. Like, let's try to get together, but we've never had to fit that in before. And it usually doesn't happen.
It doesn't work.
No. So
that is scary.
It is.
It's a good analogy, actually. It's a really good analogy because that's so true. I see memes all the time where people are all like, oh my gosh, who's the greatest? Remember that one friend you worked with? You guys were like best friends. And that's true. And you barely did anything outside of work, but you're at work 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day. So it's like you're with each other all the time anyway. Mm-hmm. And you have so much in common because everybody hates the same person at work, right? It's just normal, right? And you guys bond over that. And it's no different than having kids. I mean, it is, right? You guys have the same likenesses. You guys, you share a lot of the things that you're similar with. You love certain things. And then now you're sending this person off. It's like, okay, you have to be very purposeful about that relationship. That's why I wrote, one of them is visit them often. Don't lose touch with that. Stay connected with that. But the overarching theme of this whole thing is about empty nest is just be intentional with your time and how it's well spent, and you can do that in advance. You can prepare in advance. Now, it's not going to make tomorrow any easier for me, but you can be prepared. And I do feel prepared for this. It's just scary, because you don't want your kids' wings to grow too wide because you don't want them to soar too far. And if I go back 10 years from now, I would have wished the bigger the wings, the farther the soar. And so, I don't want to take that away from him. And because I want God to just use him to the fullest. And if that happens to be far away from dad, then that's so be it. It's just hard.
Yeah, he doesn't want him far away.
No, I don't. And it's not easy, but it's empty nest is just the truth. It feels
God
empty.
does crave or what we want in our hearts though too. And so we don't know what God's plan is for him.
You have to trust in that.
Yeah. And our kids, they don't realize that we've been wanting to move out of Michigan for a while. So if their wings take them somewhere far, and it's mostly warm there all the time, we'll just follow.
Or they're going to follow us.
Sorry.
Put a noose on them and drag them along.
I already told Graydon. Turned around the other day when we were in the car. I'm like, you don't have a choice. You know that, right? He's like, I know.
You gotta go.
He accepted it too, fully accepted. He's like, I know. I'm like, you don't get a say. That's why I'm not even asking you.
Yeah. It is tough. So empty nest syndrome is even for blended families. That's why we thought it was important to do this episode today. It's for blended families too, because it's different for us. Half the kids are still here, and those half of the kids aren't my kids. So it still feels empty nest, but at the same time, it's not, because it's not just Christy and I. We still have her boys, and those boys have been a major part of my life for the last 10 years. And so, there's some special things. I'll be able to spend some more one-on-one time with them that I really wasn't able to do before as well. So, there's a lot of opportunities.
I think it's important to address as a blended family, though, that Josh, right now, not me, Josh is going to be going through a transition phase. So he's going to be having, and that's something maybe that we haven't talked about or thought about yet, but he's going to be going through a grieving process that his kids are basically out of the house, both of them. Yeah. And so he is an empty nester when it comes to biological kids, not technically yet a total empty nester, but then the kids that are remaining in the home aren't his biological kids. So he's going to be grieving, yet trying to capitalize on the time that he has left with the 2 step kids that he has left. So he's going to be going through a transition phase. I will be affected. Josh is going to be gone. But what's so funny, I was telling this to someone the other day, what's exciting about being the step parent when something like this comes up, you're more excited than you are sad. Yes, I'll miss Josh. Of course I'll miss him. Like, the kid is so hilarious and so witty, and him and I really have gotten like a huge bond. Like, he is always on my side when it comes to like picking on him or siding against him. He always sides with me. I don't know, him and I have just gotten this unspoken understanding. We kind of like give each other looks, and it's just like we know what each other's thinking. And I am going to miss that. But a step parent, it's like, I'm really excited for him. Like, I can't wait to hear about what he's doing out there and what he's learning and the friends that he's making. Because it is different being a step parent. When you are just innate when it comes to your biological kids differently, threading in your soul. And the step kids, you're choosing to love them. So you're choosing to love them, and you're their cheerleader, and you're like, I am so excited for you to watch what you have to do with your life. It's more, I don't know, it's just different.
Yeah, and I don't want my sadness to get in the way of that, because I want that. Yeah. I want to make sure that I'm excited and, hearing about all the awesome things. And you can.
And you can be that for me when it's my turn.
Yeah, and that's true. And we can support each other in that. And it's hard. It's a weird type of loss almost, but it's not. But it is, at the same time.
My baby's going to be crying
tomorrow. It is. It's going to be sad for me, it is, but in such a good way. It really is, because this is the next season
Happy
of life.
Tears.
Yeah, for Josh, it's the next season. And I'm excited because this kid, he wants life, and he really does. And he's a take charge type of person. And that is an exciting thing to see. And it's the same thing as I think all parents do. I just pray that he does things better the first time than what I did, and so I just really want to encourage him in that. I did most everything wrong in the beginning of my life. I feel like, I did about everything you could do wrong. I probably did it. And I didn't really start figuring it out until probably in my mid-30s.
I knew him back then.
Yeah, so I did most everything wrong. And I don't want that for him, right? And I feel like he knows that, right? I feel like he knows that. So I'm excited to see what God has in store with him. I really honestly am. But at the same time, there's still sadness. Mm-hmm. It's still sad. So
it is sad.
It is.
It is. I'm happy, though. I'm excited.
So that's what we're doing tomorrow, right? So we are picking the chickens out of the nest, at least one of them, and we're kicking them to the curb, taking them to college. We're leaving tomorrow afternoon. Yep. So I have a 24-year-old. She'll be 25 this year. She is married on her own. She pays her own bills now, which is really cool. And then we have Josh, that's just 19. He is in his sophomore year at MSU, so he leaves tomorrow. We have Garrett, which is 19, and he most likely is going to be securing a full-time position as stepping into as an electrician right? He's going to be doing that, going into the trades, which is awesome. He's going to be
phenomenal.
Amazing at that. So I'm excited to see that. But then we still have one left. We have a 17-year-old.
It's weird.
He is a junior. He is an awesome tuba player. He actually is very, very good at it. I'm excited for him and his future in that, because I really believe that God's going to take him to college to do that, and hopefully and prayerfully and beyond on that. So,
and you people don't understand. Like, if you were here, the kid, he's been playing baritone since 5th grade, and then he upgraded to the tuba. And he practices like every day. And when he's not practicing, he's usually listening to something on his phone. Like, you know how kids watch all these YouTube videos, all this stuff. If you go by his room and you listen, he's listening to like symphonic bands.
yes.
And he's listening to his own marching band.
Full committed.
And picking them apart like all the time. All the time.
Yeah,
like at 5
cute,
o'clock
actually.
in the morning, I'm like standing in the hall. I'm
Yeah,
like,
he's an early riser too, which is rare because
I'm like,
Christy's the only other one.
is
That's like
he
that.
sleeping and like rolled over on his phone?
I know.
You know, and then I walk
No.
in his bedroom and I look and I'm like, Graydon? He's like, what? And I'm like, no, he's watching like symphony videos right now.
Full on symphony videos.
It's crazy.
He loves it though.
Yeah, he is. And he's very good.
He's very, very good at
He's
it.
very good.
He's been advanced band stuff. I don't even know what it's called because that's not me, but
The symphony.
yeah, symphonic band,
Orchestra
I guess.
band.
Or orchestra band. I don't know. So anyway, so he's a big part of that. So we have that coming up too, right? So we're not done.
We're
like we
getting
still,
close.
we're getting super, super close for this full empty. And so tomorrow is a different season of life for Josh and for me and for Christy as well.
And for Garrett and Graydon.
And for
I mean,
Garrett
this
and
is
Graydon.
going to
True.
be a huge adjustment on
no,
them. And
that's a good point.
we didn't address that at all,
No, 'cause we
actually.
don't care about the other kids. Apparently. I mean, that's what it looks like.
We should, now that we're talking about that, we should have. Because if you're in a blended family, in a nuclear family too, like
Yeah.
if you have kids that are left behind, as the older kids are moving out, it does affect the kids that are left behind.
So
They're
true.
used to having their siblings there to
Yeah.
talk to
And
you.
Josh and Garrett are super close.
Yes, they are so close.
Yeah.
And it was weird because when Jordan got married, Graydon this was like 4 years ago, right? 3 years ago. So Graydon was like 14.
2 or 3 years ago.
So he was like,
Yeah.
so she's not going to be living here anymore? And I'm like, no, babe, she's getting married. Like, once she gets married,
She
it's
gone.
like me and Big Josh. Like, her and Luke are going to be like living together. They're married. And he's like, oh. You know, so it's important to have those conversations. I mean, Garrett, we haven't really talked to him about it, but he is going to be sad. It's
Ugh.
going to be a huge hole in
so true.
in his schedule because him and Josh are so close.
Yeah, they share the entire. We have finished basement, so they share the whole finished basement. It's just them two, and Garrett's the social butterfly. So the majority of the kids that came over in the beginning were Garrett's friends. Well, Josh just became friends with these guys by attrition. So now they all hang out with the same kids all the time, right? There's 5, 6, 10, 12 kids downstairs all the time. So yeah, and Garrett is very social. So Garrett loves that interaction.
And a lot of them kids have went away to college.
And a lot have, including now his stepbrother, which they are best. They are absolute best friends, and which is good where he's only an hour away. So it is. Yeah, I guess that's a great last point to make really before we sign off tonight is, I guess, just see how this empty nest affects everybody in the household, especially in a blended family.
Because it's a transitional thing.
It is.
You know, if you have more than one child, it's like affects the kids left behind,
Yeah.
and the next one affects the kids left behind. And so
So
it's
true.
empty nesting for them
It is.
on a different playing field.
It is. And the blessing of this for me is that he's just in school. It's not like he went into the service and he's gone, you know, and I feel blessed by
Nothing
that.
against the service.
No, but I'm just thankful that isn't what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm thankful for. So, you know, it's like, I got to look at the silver linings in this whole thing too.
Glass half full.
That's right. It's got to be half full. And, you know, it's how I want to look at it. And I choose to say, you know, God's got big plans, and I'm excited to actually see how
Andy's
this
at
happens.
MSU. Go green.
Go white. I mean, that's awesome just all on its own. So it's going to be exciting to be able to go see him, visit him. He's going to go to all the sporting events, which is super, super exciting. And, you know, we just want to let everybody know, you know, lean into each other in community when you're going through things like this. You know, people have been there. Christy said it in the very beginning of the show. You know, we can lean on each other. We can lean on people that's been where we've been. You know, I had the lady in our office at the church today that was talking to me, and she's got kids that are in their mid-20s, and she has twin boys, and, you know, just graduated college. One moved out to Iowa with his new wife, And so I know it's hard, you know, and she's like, yeah, it is hard in the beginning, but it's, you really start to see all the blessings that come from it. So know that your community's there to support you, that they're there, you know, just to show you hope in what can be had in the future. That, you know, empty nest is just a syndrome of the right now, and that, you know, a lot of blessings come thereafter. So,
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. We want to thank everybody for being here. If you hadn't had an opportunity yet to hit the share button, please hit the share button. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday at 7.
Bye.
See ya.